Hey, welcome back to the FwooshCast. It is your host, Tony and Nick. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
I'm very good. It's nice to be back after a couple weeks off. Today, we are going to be talking about the rest of the year ahead. We're recording this just about at the halfway point through the year. We got about 2 weeks till the exact halfway point of 2015, and it's been a huge year for geek and sundry stuff so far. I mean, we've already had a couple of huge blockbusters, multiple waves of Marvel Legends and other great toys, TV shows up the wazoo, but we're only halfway done. If you can believe, we probably had more geek and genre stuff the first half of this year than just about any other single year I can even think of.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Especially with Marvel Legends has just been had been relentless with the releases. But just to speak to my short attention span, since it's been about a month or so since those have actually tapered off, all of a sudden it feels like, man, there's nothing that's come out this year. And then I think about all the money that I've spent, and you're an idiot. You spent it all at the beginning of the year, but we're kind of in that. I hate to say the lull for action figure stuff, but we're just too damn close to Comic-Con, even though it feels like it's still an eternity out for us to be getting any type of big news and whatnot. And toy releases kind of slow down a little bit during the summer because they kind of save it for that third quarter, into the fourth quarter turn to the holiday rush. So, yes, we have gotten a ton of stuff, but right now it just seems like there's nothing out there to buy.
Right, but there certainly will be, because the second half of this year, at least as scheduled, is at least as bountiful as the first half was.
We've got there's another little movie coming out at the end of the year, which they've never merchandised Star Wars before, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Right. Well, we're to touch on that in a sec, because there was some interesting eBay stuff, to say the least.
Yeah.
But Ant-Man is coming up in just about 6 weeks. Fantastic Four follows hard upon that, whatever you may think of that. And we've got at least 2 full waves of Marvel Legends that have been officially announced as coming out this year in support of Ant-Man and Avengers. We don't know any dates on those. My hope is they're, since they were announced so early, that their second or third quarter product, and that there's even more end of the year stuff that we don't know about yet. But that might be hoping for too much, because considering how much we've already got this year. But there's, in addition to that, there's also Amazon and Target each have an exclusive multi-pack. There's stuff from, there's too many in terms of all the other. We're very Marvel Legends focused, but there are other toys out there.
I was thinking about that as well, because there are a few things that I'm kind of into that are secondary for me as a collector, but there's still some really great stuff.
There's some great production photos came out of Japan this week of the Funko Rocketeer, which looks as good as I had hoped, and that's out very soon. That's been scheduled for June, so I think, considering someone in Japan already has it.
And Funko's usually pretty good about being able to stick to their dates. So
Mezco's 112 Judge Dredd is supposed to come out later this year. And at the end of the year, we got the DC Collectibles Icons series, which is their first real foray into the 6-inch articulated type stuff. Some people are really excited about that. Some people are more wait and see. But, there's just too much stuff even to mention, all of it. And then who knows? We still have 2 big conventions, San Diego Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con. Certainly there's going to be stuff announced at each of those that we don't even know about yet.
Yeah. and it's just too early to start the speculation talk for San Diego too. I'm looking forward to when we're going to get to do that, but I still think we're about a month out from being able to do that successfully.
Probably leaks here and there are going to start soon, I would imagine. A couple weeks. Some of that stuff usually, whether it's intentional or not, starts to get leaked out there, so who knows. What are your big, of the stuff that I've mentioned real briefly, what are your big toy for the rest of 2015? What are your priority toy? What are you most looking forward to?
I mean, obviously there are some figures. Overall, I'm looking forward to the Marvel Legends line. There are definitely some figures here and there that are extremely important to me that I'm really looking forward to getting, and then some, not so much. I'm still kind of up in the air on what I'm going to do as far as completion of certain waves, because if I look to it, it's I've got to have characters like the Wasp and Monica and whatnot, but I'm not so sure that I necessarily need to build a movie Ultron build a figure. The jury's still kind of out on that, even though I enjoyed Avengers 2 quite a bit. I'm just not a big movie figure collector. So that's Marvel Legends continues to be scattershot for me as far as character selection goes. As far as quality of figures go, I mean, there's very little that you can argue in terms of how nice that line is actually coming out with each subsequent wave. It seems like it's just as strong, or they're building and getting stronger. So there's definitely that. Star Wars is going to be absolute madness for at least 6 weeks after the drop date of all of the scheduled merchandise. So sometime in September, I want to say the 4th or somewhere around there. And if eBay is any telling of that, because our old pal Viper's Kingdom in Hong Kong, who is, I guess, famous for having early release, I guess, samples or rejects, or I've purchased pieces from him before that have come fully carded and ready to go. He actually had the episode 7, I guess they're calling them Stormtroopers, the Black Series figure up for auction just a couple of days ago, and I didn't check it at the very end, but it was already north of $1,000 before that ended. So I'm planning on my Star Wars collecting, at least with the episode 7 stuff, to be just be patient. You don't have to run out and get all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I never really understand that collectors that would pay that premium just to have something first. I guess when it's something that you really want and you have some anxiety whether you're going to be able to find it in a store or whether they're going to sell it. But if someone doesn't think that a Star Wars Stormtrooper figure is going to be in every toy store in the world, from October to January, and even more than likely be in a marked down section come February. I don't. Yeah. I mean, I guess if you got $1,000 to blow, but man, jeez, it's a Stormtrooper.
Yeah. It's a cool looking figure.
It is.
It's just it's one of those things that when they announce the classic Stormtrooper, the Black Series line, it's you know what you're dealing with there. Sure. That they're omnipresent in the original trilogy. They're some of the most recognizable, I guess, designs or character or whatever you want to call it, and they show up in droves. So I knew right away that I was going to need to army build Stormtroopers like crazy, which I did.
That's weird. I wouldn't think of you as an army builder.
I know, right?
That was sarcasm.
But even though I'm positive that the new Stormtroopers will be the same way, it's I'm gonna take it a little slower with the episode 7 stuff, I think, just because I don't want to get wrapped into overpaying for everything right at the very beginning.
Yeah, for sure. I think the thing that a lot of the collectors your and I ages are probably going to be frustrated with is the other 6 movies sort of taking a back seat for a little while on the Black Series. while the episode 7 stuff gets put out.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that I've been thinking about, and I've kept in the back of my mind now. If several months ago we kind of got what everyone really believes to be the real, I guess, prototype picture leaks of some figures from episode 7, and from the looks of it, it looks like Chewbacca is at least going to be one of those guys who's going to make it into at least one of the initial Waves of Black series. So I think we're going to still get our new Chewies and probably a new Han here and there and whatnot, but I have every hope that episode 7 will capture and hold me as much as the original trilogy does, and so it'll be fun to collect these new guys. But at the same time, I'm still very much without a Lando and other characters from the original trilogy, and I'm not gonna be an apologist or make any secret about it, but there are definitely lots of characters that I want from the prequel trilogy as well.
Right.
Which those
you want your Jar Jar Binks, your Jar Jar Binks senator robes, your Jar Jar Binks,
my little Anakin. But it's going to be a crazy year for Star Wars.
Yeah. And I recently lost my mind and bought my first Bandai model kit, 6-inch C-3PO.
How did that go?
Well, I still haven't had the balls to try and put it together yet. I took like 3 weeks to get here with Japanese postage, and I opened up the box, and boy, the parts look so pretty and shiny, but there are more parts and more tiny parts than you can possibly imagine. It's real daunting.
I've got to tell you, when Robo got into those, and I saw pictures of the trays of parts and whatnot, especially with R2D2 or someone like that who's small to begin with. I could not believe how many parts that they were able to split that little character into, just for the point of building it as a model set. So I technically have not ordered anything yet. C-3PO is definitely on my list of to buys, so I'll be getting him. But yeah, I'm more than just a little bit intimidated by the whole build process when it comes to those.
Yeah, I just need to set aside an entire Sunday and boot up Robo's video with all the tips and tutorials and stuff, and just kind of dedicate a day to it. But in my mind, it's going to be worth it, because who knows when we're ever going to get a Black Series C-3PO, and who knows if it would have been shiny. There's a constant debate: should it be molded gold plastic? Should it be painted? Should it be back metallized? Well, the Bandai model kit's perfect. The scale looks great in everything I've seen. So my thought is that's going to fill my need there.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
At least until they release a Black Series figure, and then they decide, even though you probably won't display it with your normal display, you're going to have it anyway.
We'll see. We shall see. It's funny, you were talking about Marvel Legends and whether you're picking and choosing from a couple of these waves, but what the problem I usually have is there's usually a Build-A-Figure that I want to put together, but I don't want all the figures. That's
right.
A pretty common or almost universal problem for collectors, I think, that aren't, at least ones that aren't absolute completists. But actually, I'm having the opposite problem, I think, with the Ant-Man Legends wave, which is that's the one with the Age of Ultron Build-A-Figure, right? I'm pretty sure I need every single one of those regular figures, but I really am nonplussed with having a movie Ultron Build-A-Figure, like you were saying. So maybe I'll be able to sell that for $1,000 on eBay and recoup my costs.
I think I'm going to need most of those, so I may end up just getting that anyway. Like you said, and I'll probably end up selling the Build-A-Figure. But I'm even going back and forth on that Spider-Man series Rhino. He looks cool.
God,
He's
I completely forgot about the Spider-Man series. It's an entire another wave.
Yeah, and it's one of those waves that it's like, man, I think I need just about almost everybody in the assortment, but I'm really not sure if I need that Build-A-Figure Rhino, just because I am so in love with the old Marvel Legends Rhino that we got back in the day. I think that's going to be perfect figure.
Yeah, I always would have thought that was a figure that never needed an update. I think what I'm going to do with that is I'm really going to have to see them in hand, side by side. I think I'm going to build that new Rhino and really put them up against each other and give it a hard look.
Yeah,
that's a tough one.
But like we keep alluding to, San Diego is just about 5 or 6 weeks away,
right?
And
it's
not like they're not going to show anything in San Diego,
right?
In terms
of trying to guess when these things are coming out, usually stuff that is even tangentially tied to a movie is going to be, they want to get it in stores on the shelf before the movie comes out, so that on opening weekend you hit the toy store after the movie, it's there. If Ant-Man comes out in 6 weeks, don't you think we're going to see that wave of Marvel Legends out any day now?
I'm hoping that's definitely the case, and they were just able to get it out of Asia without anything leaking first. But even the guys in Asia who buy that stuff in the stores, they haven't stumbled upon that yet, and generally there
hasn't been any internet pre-orders up or anything like that. It's
right.
It's sort of surprising to me. I really would have thought that would be up by now.
Yeah, and like you said, when the guys in Singapore or wherever else strike and they purchase theirs in actual stores, there's still at least a 2 or 3 week lead time around that before it starts hitting the States. So if they're going to go through with what the traditional plan is to get that stuff out ahead of the movie, man, we're going to have to start seeing that stuff hit any day now, and I'm just not sure if that's going to be the case.
Right. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Certainly, I would assume that's not going to be a fourth quarter wave for sure. I would think.
I can't imagine it. It seems like everything that they've shown and that they did show at Toy Fair was through the second quarter, kind of maybe into the start of into mid third quarter or so. But the holiday time stuff they haven't shown yet.
Right.
And it's not like they're going to take the fourth quarter off for product.
For sure. All right. Well, what about San Diego? We know all the exclusives. The Matty Collector vouchers go on sale soon. What are you looking forward to there? Also, are you going to San Diego Comic-Con?
I am going to San Diego.
All right.
This year. This year has been an absolute nightmare in terms of getting everything in order for San Diego. But I could spend an entire hour-long and more podcast talking about my current set of grievances with just the way that everything is handled in regards to San Diego Comic-Con. But I'll let that rest for now. I will be going, and since Mattel has announced all of their stuff, I'm definitely a mark for the Masters of the Universe stuff, because that is still one of my favorite lines. And even though people say, "Oh, it's slowing down," I don't think that's necessarily the case, and I'm going to collect it until there's nothing left to collect. So getting the semi-obscure and very split amongst the collector base on whether or not people like them are the Energy Zoids, Rotar, and Twistoid. They're going to be the exclusives, which kind of surprised me that they were the ones that were chosen, just because there's lots of He-Man and Skeletor variants that they have to get out before the end of the year to fulfill their promise of completing the vintage line. I thought maybe for sure we were going to see one of those sets as a San Diego exclusive, but it's a very, very nice set. The Horsemen and Mattel handled them really, really well, because not only are they the top figures, and by top I mean the little tops that you spin, which was kind of their shtick back in the day, but both of those characters have actually been given legs as well, so it gives everybody kind of an opportunity to display them however they want. With Twistoid, the evil one, it's kind of strange. It's cool, but he was never, nothing in his history was ever so that he had legs. But Rotar, he actually had a backstory where he's an actual amputee. He was the character was, I think he was a palace guard, and he got hurt in battle, and Man at Arms said, I can't make you new legs, which all the things that Man at Arms can make.
Right.
I think that's kind of
we can make those here in 2015 real world. All right.
So instead, he got turned into a top man.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to that. It's not my favorite set in the world,
right.
but it is part of Masters of the Universe Classics and the vintage line. So I'll be looking forward to that. The other companies, they're starting to slowly trickle out their reveals. Mezco's doing their 112 collective battle damaged Dark Knight Returns Batman against the Mutant Leader, which we saw that kind of set up at New York Comic Con. So I'm looking forward to that. NECA's got a few things coming as well, but Hasbro, they're still the holdout. Still don't know what they will be offering in terms of Star Wars or Marvel, and anybody who's ever been to San Diego Comic-Con can tell you in terms of exclusives, Hasbro has always been the biggest nightmare. So I'm kind of weighted with whether or not I'm going to have this cloud of worry over my head for the entire con to be able to get the Hasbro exclusives. So we'll see.
All right. Well, I'll be looking forward to that. TV stuff. There is still a little bit left for this year, although most everything now has had their season finales for this year. Whether at least toy related or super pop culture related. I think you're definitely right. Constantine not only had its series finale, but also was canceled. So we'll never see that. It's unfortunate. It wasn't a fantastic show, but I thought it was at least as good as most of the other comic book shows on right now.
Yeah, that was just one of those things that it's on the wrong network because it's automatically going to get pushed to a bad TV slot, which when anything's given a debut on a Friday or a Saturday night, it's like, oh well, it's not long for this world before it even starts.
right. So the Arrow and Flash both they wrapped up theirs. They're still going blockbusters, and next year they're expanding that whole franchise with Legends of Tomorrow, which I think is a real strange title. Not too sure about that. Gotham as well. It's done for this season, coming back.
Now I heard that, and as an admitted non-watcher of that show, I heard that the people who's the biggest beef that they've had with that show is Will Smith's wife. On there, Jada Pinkett.
Yeah, a lot of people.
And I heard she's not coming back for the second season.
Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's certainly, after watching the season finale, it would seem that she's not coming back.
Okay.
I guess they could, it's a comic show. They could do anything they want in the future, but I think it's safe to say she is gone. I haven't heard anything, in the news about her being contracted for the new series. So, if that was what was keeping you away, folks. And it's kind of funny as a sidebar. They, the Barbara Gordon, not the Batgirl, but the Jim Gordon's love interest character. When they started the series, that was sort of the weak link of the series to me. I think they did a really poor job of writing her and figuring out where she was supposed to be in the show. I think it was more a case of when they pitched the show, they were like, "Oh, he has to have a love interest, doesn't he?" And they were like, "Yeah." And they sort of, shoehorned it in there, but there was really no point to her. Or it was poorly written, and I think that it was sort of universally received, by watchers in the same way. The really interesting thing they did was to sort of go with it. They sort of steered into it. Like at some point in the middle of the season, they said, "You know what? This character isn't working. The buzz online, people hate it." They made her fucking crazy. they turned her into like this insane like villain character, which is fascinating.
That's weird.
Good for them. But at the end of the year, the next Marvel Netflix show, aka Jessica Jones, will launch with a lot of supporting characters from the Marvel universe that people are going to be excited about. Hellcat, Purple Man, Luke Cage.
Purple Man is played by a fan
Who.
Favorite, right?
Yeah. Hell, I watched David Tennant read the phone book. You know? He's great. So that's I mean, like I said, there's just more than we can even. Game of Thrones is right in the middle of its season. What do we have? Like 3 more episodes this season?
Let's see. I think 8, 9, and 10. I think that's what's left. Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems to be moving apace. Now you've read the books. I have not read the books.
Yeah.
But they pretty much have, I guess, at least by the end of this season, will have mostly caught up with everything that's been published so far.
Well, some things.
Other than there's like a couple of story points that they've more or less said they're not doing.
Yeah, and the show itself has become definitely derivative of the actual book. So it seems like watching the show week to week, for better or for worse, is still filled with a lot of surprises.
Mm-hmm.
There actually, as of last week, which since we're a week out, I'm going to go ahead and talk about spoilers just because. At your own risk going forward as far as this goes. But as of last week, they've actually moved at least one of the major storylines forward past where it would have been up to the books, because Tyrion and Daenerys had their big meeting, which actually is I think people are saying is very close to happening in the books, but it actually hasn't happened yet.
Oh, so he has not gotten to Marine yet in the book?
No, he has. He's just outside the walls of Marine. Okay. So
interesting.
Yeah,
we'll see how in the next 3 episodes. It'll be interesting to see how far. They may not go much further because they do have so many storylines, and it wouldn't be the first time that the show hit a major plot point and then didn't move very far past it. But certainly. George R. R. Martin better get on the stick.
Well, he didn't write an episode for this season because he said he was writing his book. He's already announced that he's not doing one for the next season because the book is taking precedence for him, or so. I guess maybe he's working on it. I've just come to the point where I'm comfortable with the show being ahead of the books, and probably giving you major details ahead, but not exactly in the same way.
Right, and I guess he's not necessarily beholden. I mean, if the show races forward and makes decisions about characters or story, he's not necessarily obligated to keep it that way for the book.
Yeah, that's funny that you say that, because I think that puts him in a bit of a precarious position, because if he's actually talked about how the books are going to resolve with the showrunners so that they can, put it on that course to do so. I really hope he doesn't do a, kind of a Nielsen test with this and say, oh, well, that worked, but this didn't, so I'm going to change this in the books, because I think that will just make him show his ass as far as that goes, and be like, he let the show go ahead to test this, and people either loved it or they hated it, so whether or not that's going to be the same way in the books, we're just going to have to see how the audience testing went. I don't think he can do that and hold any type of credibility.
One would assume anyway that he's at least provide working with the showrunners in terms of a general outline and thrust, but that what the books then would offer is to really open up stories that you may have seen on the previous season of the show, but with more depth and background and nuance, etc.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm still enjoying it. It's definitely this season's been. It's definitely had some cool parts to it. It's definitely been one of the most frustrating seasons, I think, thus far. But it's
frustrating in its turns away from the book story, or frustrating in the pace, or
maybe a little bit of both. When it turns from the books, I'm over that. Because if you've been with the show this long as a book reader and you haven't been able to move past that, then there's not a whole lot that I or those the showrunners can do for you, because it's just the nature of reality.
Right.
Some of the pacing stuff has been a little off to me, and some of the things that should have been cool just because they were cool haven't been quite as cool as they should have been. I think the whole the sand snakes have been very disappointing to me. I mean, Jaime Lannister going to Dorne is definitely a show creation. That entire storyline has just been so boring, except for maybe Bronn, because Bronn's never boring, but Bronn's only been exciting as far as that goes because he's just been funny as hell as he's always been.
That's interesting that's not from the books. It was because especially they set up the. What are they? The Sand Sisters? The Snake Sisters?
Sand Snakes. Mm-hmm.
Sisters, listen to me. They set up the Sand Snakes very early in this season as if it was going to be a real central thing, and you thought, oh, here's these kick-ass characters. They really seem to be placing it in a central, position for the season. And then we sort of didn't see them again for a few episodes, and then there was like a 5-minute fight.
A horribly choreographed
5-minute fight that nobody won, that was broken up, and then they all went to jail, and then that's kind of it.
And that's the thing for being the daughters of Oberyn Martell, who are wanting vengeance. All of a sudden, they're stopped by a few guards, and they're like, "Oh well, shit, we better stop fighting now." It's like, come on.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't want to be that guy who's getting presumptuous about things, because I'm hoping that there's going to be some payoff as far as that goes later on down the line, which they may be setting up at a slow burn, which is fine. But that's kind of been a little boring to me. While I think they did a good job of repairing Stannis Baratheon, because I've always been a big fan of his, and he's just been so cold to the touch for being the fire god guy.
Right.
But I think they've done a great job with him from a character standpoint this season, but he hasn't done anything. But I still think there's a chance for that. Everybody knows the last 3 episodes of the seasons are when it goes from the leisurely jog to a dead sprint. So there could be some stuff with him going forward. But
it seems like, now correct me if I'm wrong, because as I said, I have not read the books. But as we've gone along with the TV show, I've spoken to friends that have, and I always try to avoid book spoilers. But once stuff has happened in the series, I have a couple of friends that I'll call and I'll say, "Hey, does it happen this way in the book?" Or what's this? But so, other than a few things that haven't happened at all in the show, like the Lady Stoneheart storyline, for example. But things that they've changed, not things they've completely omitted, but things that they've changed. It seems like for the most part, they've done it with an eye towards making like a stronger choice. For example, the Red Wedding, Rob's wife, I can't remember her name.
Talisa.
Yeah, Talisa. In the books, she they sort of let her go, and then she goes and lives as a hermit and has this child or something.
Well, she never actually goes to the actual wedding.
Okay.
So
she sort of just makes it through and is alive
she's
somewhere.
Martin, for all of his virtues and whatnot. I'm still anxious to see where he goes with a lot of characters and storylines in the books that he's got right now, because I don't want to say that he's written himself into several corners, but there's been a lot of characters and non-resolutions and things like that, which may end up being unresolved just by whatever his choice is. But changes as far as that goes, I thought the show actually handled that very, very well.
Right. I was just going to say that's regardless of maybe he has in his mind, the long view, he's got something in mind for that character. But 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 if he doesn't, I mean, it seems like a much stronger choice to say,
right. Well,
and
my thing is that if they were going to make the choice on the show to have Talisa attend the Red Wedding just to be stabbed, then to me that would say that Martin had to have had some input on that, or whether or not that character would not have any impactful resolution later on in the story.
Right. Certainly, if he decides that now in the books, it's going to be a whole different thing.
Right.
So, but yeah, so things, and there's a few other things. So things like that, and again, I don't know all the changes, but a lot of the things I've heard, it seems like, oh, well, that actually seems like sort of a streamlined improvement, just a stronger choice. The narrative point is they are wiping out the Starks in a horrible way, and to have Robb's wife and child survive off somewhere else seems it sort of dilutes that, right?
Right. And they've done that this season as well. I don't think they handled it quite as well, because I really think the killing off of Barristan Selmy was done where you've got this great character, great potential for the future, and he was killed for what I believe is to give what he does later on in the books to Tyrion, which I understand the need to maximize what you would maximize characters, or those that you would actually consider to be main characters on this show, but my jury's still out on whether or not they're doing that the right way.
Well, you've got to have. I mean, now this isn't necessarily spoiler because I don't know, but of someone who's watched the show up to this point, my assumption is Varys wants to send Tyrion to Essos because he knows that he's a brilliant political mind and he'd be a great hand to Daenerys, who he thinks could be a great queen, but she needs good counsel, right? That's the...
Yeah, I think that's what you can explore as that goes. I mean, they changed that a little bit at the beginning of the season as far as, Varys being with Tyrion and whatnot, but I think the political mind of, because you're right, Daenerys, her ultimate goal is to rule a country that she's really never been to.
and so if in the books, if Barristan Selmy is someone sort of providing that counsel, as we saw him try to do so far in the series, then what is that? Why does Tyrion need to go there? What is he even there for?
So I understand that, and things that will probably play out by the end of this season would show that stronger. I think once we get there, we can talk about it and the things that I think that maybe they could have explored by keeping the character around, but that'll be a discussion for later on.
Well,
for sure.
But so this is what I'm working up to, as you may have guessed. One thing that they've changed is the Jane Poole storyline. So, and this again, without I'll say again, I have not read the books, so I can't really speak with authority on the way that the storyline is in the books. But from what I've been told in very basic sense, it sounds like what the showrunners have done here is similar to some of these other things where they've said, wouldn't it be a stronger choice if this? So in the story, in the book story, a character called Jane Poole is taken by the Boltons and presented as Sansa Stark.
Arya. She's presented as Arya.
Oh, Arya. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, so she's presented as a Stark daughter to the people of the North and married to the Bolton heir for their political purposes. And obviously, the bastard Bolton we know is a sadistic horror show. So she everybody miss
what's his name? Got Joffrey yet?
right.
There's
one in every show.
There, it's like, you missed me yet?
Yeah. So what the producers of the show have done is it's more or less this same storyline, I guess, the rough approximation of the storyline, but instead of having it be a entirely new, somewhat unimportant character, they've said, well, why not have it just be Sansa Stark? Raises the stakes. It enriches all the characters. It maximizes story impact, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm really far off base, but
no.
Generally,
I think you're right on it. And to be honest with you, when she and Littlefinger were leaving the Vale, I knew that's exactly where they were going. I think a lot of people knew that would be exactly where they were going. So the point of changing the characters for the impact of the show, like you're talking about, I think that was probably a strong move. Now, how they've handled that since then is a little bit more up in the air. But
so they got a lot of blowback for this, and for one story point and scene in particular. And I will say, well, for those of you who aren't aware, Sansa has to marry
Ramsay
Bolton, and on their wedding night, she's raped by him, and consequently, we find that this is sort of a routine sexual abuse situation as it rolls on. But the scene in particular ended the episode before last, and there was a lot of uproar. Now, I will say it's interesting because when we watched that scene, and my reaction to it was not necessarily specific to that scene, that character. I didn't have sort of the negative reaction that I want to talk about in a minute. But my reaction was, oh, geez, this show is unrelenting with the horrible, horrible things that keep happening to everyone.
Yeah,
and it is, and it what I did, I am finding it a little exhausting. How and there's just almost never anything good or hopeful to sort of, let the air out of the balloon. I don't need an R2D2 character, but please, something not terrible happened to someone.
Well,
please.
Here's my thought on that, and it'll actually touch into that scene in particular. Is that I think that this is probably a good way to gauge whether or not people are going to be satisfied or completely kaput with the entire resolution of the series. As it comes to that, I think if you're expecting happy endings for the series, then maybe that might be a little misplaced, but we'll see. But here's my thought on this, and just because you did speak about the blowback and whatnot, and while it can be kind of, I guess, quote unquote dangerous territory to begin a discussion about, but here's my thought on this: is that this show and these books have, like you said, relentlessly used horrific acts, murder, mass murder, bending on genocide, rape. These are devices that have been used in the books and in the show over and over and over again as things that move the plot forward. So I'm kind of to the point now that even though these acts are horrible and they piss you off and they make you feel sick to your stomach, this is the world that we live in now. That being said, I'm not particularly fond of that last scene that we're talking about with Sansa and Ramsay and Reek as well, because those are the three characters that are present for that scene. And so if you're looking at those three characters, who they're all very important to the story, at least at this point, right? To me, an ending scene like that to a very important political arrangement, it's got to have some weight to carry these characters further down their paths.
Right.
And in the past, acts like rape or murder, as horrible as they are, have generally done that. This time, I think that they missed the mark on that, because I was left wondering, what does this unspeakable act do to move these three characters forward? Is it to get the point across that Sansa is suffering and her life is a living hell? We didn't need that scene to get that across.
Right.
Did we need that act to prove to everybody that Ramsay is this sadistic fuck who will do whatever he wants, including, raping his now wife over and over again in horrific fashion? No, we did not need that scene to prove that. Did we need Theon Reek to be present to see something like that, to move his character as a completely defeated character who needs a spark, maybe to help try to move things along? I don't think that's the case either, because there's still a lot with his character and Sansa outside of him having to play witness to something like that would serve to move his character along. So, while I cannot get in this horrible uproar about, using murder and rape and things like this as plot devices in this world, because this world is built on those types of things, I don't think it was successful as a plot device in this instance.
Well, let me ask you this, because I see everything you're saying. Are you basically saying that they didn't necessarily need that scene, that we can understand in the story as it's rolling along in other scenes, we can be made to understand that is happening off screen, but we didn't need the scene? Or are you saying that maybe they don't need to reference it at all?
Well, I think that marrying Sansa into to Ramsay Bolton, I think it's probably a given that that is going to be the case no matter what. I don't know how they would necessarily avoid it without completely changing Ramsay's character,
right? Because that was my question. There was a lot of the uproar involved, but a lot of people saying, basically making a lot of the same arguments you made, but in particular that it was just sort of a bridge too far or a final straw in terms of the treatment of women.
The thing is that I think it would be understood that was going on, and they could show that through Sansa's characterization if they needed to continue with that. However,
certainly in the following episode, her arm was thoroughly bruised, and,
and we know what Ramsay's capable of in the past, so I don't think it would be a real secret or a far stretch for anybody to get there as far as what was going on. However, this is a visual medium, and that was obviously reserved as a climax to an episode. So it is one of those cases that I think that you're right with being unrelenting, and if they're going to make a statement about it so strong, then I'm not saying that there's not going to be some ultimate payoff to that. I just don't know if it is going to be something that's like, oh, well, that definitely needed to have happened in the way that it happened and shown on screen for this in the future to have happened. What's going to happen in the future would have happened had that scene not taken place.
Right.
That still could pay off. I think it could. But
it's interesting. Well, I mean, we still have to see. I guess there's more to play out. But speaking directly to that point, at least so far, it seems to me that that scene shot in the way that it was and presented in the way that it was meant to make us as an audience think, oh, maybe this is going to be the thing that breaks Theon out of his reek mode finally, because then the next episode is she goes to him for help, put the candle in the window for me, and that whole episode is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? And we're building off of that final shot of the episode before where he's watching and thinking, oh, maybe he will. And I wonder if that entire scene was really just to build our expectations of what's he going to do about it.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, that's pretty freaking brutal.
Yeah,
Which, like I said, this is the world that we quote unquote live in. So you better be used to it right now. I don't necessarily agree with the characterizations of how they've handled characters and what they put characters through, especially some of the females. But this is that world, so you take it or you don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I certainly,
at this point.
yeah, reading, all the different editorial stuff that came out about that, I think I'm more or less with you. I don't know that we needed that scene per se, but on the other hand, there was a lot of people that weren't necessarily decrying the scene itself, but just the story point that it happened, and I was sort of wonder how else that could be. If they marry her to Ramsey, I don't know what you do to not have that happen.
And you're absolutely right. And this is a show that is going against, just because of the way that things work in this world. It's going against or not taking note so much, I guess, of maybe the social climate in which this show is existing outside of itself. Right now, but I think that the people,
and there's no lack of great female characters in the show.
No,
from Brienne,
that's the
Arya,
thing. Right? That's the thing too. I mean, Daenerys. I mean, right at the very beginning. I mean, we've seen that this isn't a new plot point. Daenerys was straight up raped by her new husband right away.
Right.
I mean, everybody seems to forget about that with Khal Drogo, but it's one of those things that I guess everybody can have their jumping off point when they've just finally seen enough, and that's fine.
Yeah,
but
and for me,
to
I
call
get
this one out as being something that is wholly different than anything else that we've seen on the show thus far, I don't really buy that, because this is how it has been. This is how it's been.
and there were some people that made the case that it was actually, as these sort of things have gone, this was actually a step forward for them, in that it was depicted off screen, so there wasn't an obligatory sort of titillation factor that you might have had in some of these other ones. That it was presented absolutely unambiguously as a rape. There was a lot of with the Daenerys situation in particular, there seemed to be some ambiguity in how, she starts to enjoy it. People had a problem with what that might have said, and there was a scene between Jaime and Cersei that was apparently very different in the books and in the TV show. So there were some people that said, at least at this point, this was presented unambiguously as a horror, and and with repercussions, whereas some of the other ones didn't. So in that respect, they actually thought that it was a step up.
Yeah, and let me just say this, is that even though like you said, I don't think that there's any way to avoid Sansa being in the situation that she is in with what would happen subsequently to being married to Ramsay Bolton. However, having not shown that on screen, but having known that she's going through that and building her character up continually as she's suffering from this, and what's happening, is good for her. My biggest, I think my biggest thing with that, aside from it being a very difficult scene, because it involves one of the worst things that can happen to a human being, act, is that, man, they have spent the better part of a season and a half making Sansa a character who is actually coming into her own. She's not the damsel in distress type of thing. They're building up her character, and that, with that one scene, it's like, man, they knocked her down so many pegs, which again, it goes with the flow of this show. It's just that you're right. It did feel unrelenting.
Well, and that for me, given one of the things I like about the show and the story is the dark aspects, and that it doesn't play into fantasy cliches about heroes and good and evil. It's much more complicated and nuanced. I appreciate all that, but just any story, you've got to have levels. You've got to have highs and lows. You got to and boy, there just aren't any highs.
And especially with Sansa, I hate to use the crude term of it's been a cock tease watching her being built up as God damn, finally, Sansa is going to, be both her mother and her father, but her own character and this and that, and then it's like you get kicked in the nuts with it,
right.
and it's like, oh damn it, you're so close. Which again, though, that's George R.R. Martin or the showrunners or whoever, sitting back and saying, well, that the biggest mistake you made was having hope behind something here, because
right.
it's like, how many times are you going to burn your hand on the stove?
Right. I'm starting to feel like Reek now.
Yeah.
Where it's like I don't ever want to I don't want to believe in anything, because it could all just be a sadistic joke that's going to turn on me at any moment. So I'm just going to curl up and mule in the corner.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, when that happens and you start to go there, it's like, God damn it, what's it going to take for Reek? Is like, is he actually going to come out of it and admit to her that her brothers aren't dead? Because Roose Bolton knows they're not dead. He knows. I mean, that was revealed. Yeah, that was revealed last season, when he sent what's his name that chopped off Jaime's hand north of the wall.
Oh, right.
Because he said, find those boys, was like the last
right, because
thing
because it was like the old maester from Winterfell told him, right, or something.
Well, he was dead by then. I'm trying to think back into the show now, how the hell they figured out that maybe Theon actually admitted it. I think Theon actually admitted it, and Theon admitted it and told Ramsay, and then Ramsay told Roose. I think that's how that went.
Interesting. So Ramsay knows too. Interesting.
Yeah.
I had forgotten that, because there's so many things to keep track of.
But that's kind of like the big thing. It's like, when the hell is Sansa gonna find out about that?
Right. Well, and that's another, circling back now, that gets to the point of what's left in the books, because correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no more Bran and Rickon story in the books that the TV series hasn't covered, right? I mean,
not anything of real merit. I mean, there's been some character stuff with Bran once he's been, in the tree, under the tree, but it definitely not anything real, like plot driving going on. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, that's all the time that we've got for today.
Man, we've taken a dark turn to the end.
Go watch Game of Thrones, because maybe the episode tonight is gonna, have all the glory and joy and retribution. Maybe this will be the night.
And then you'll buy that oceanfront in Arizona, right?
Right. Hui. All right. Well, hey. That has been the FwooshCast for this week. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. Check us out on thefwoosh.com, the message boards. Find us on Facebook. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think, what you want us to talk about. Let us know what you thought of the season of Game of Thrones. What toys and movies are you looking forward to for the rest of this year? You can also hit us up on Twitter if you find us on the Fwoosh, and you can find all our Twitter handles and all that good stuff. Everything is there. Thefwoosh.com. For the FwooshCast, I'm Tony. This is Nick.
I was going to let you play me out there.
All right. We'll see you later. Play nice.
Bye.